Today, going to talk about building a profile and conducting a job search in Edjoin. So, a little more about who we are, who SDCOE is. SDCOE has schools, juvenile court and community schools. So, we serve incarcerated youth as well as homeless youth, and we have a school actually that serves students with orthopedic impairments, severe disabilities. So SDCOE has multiple schools of its own, as well as we serve 42 school districts across the county, 780 schools, 500,000 students, and over 120 charter schools across the county. We also work with 5 community college districts across the county, and our team in particular collaborates with universities as well across San Diego County. What we want to make sure you come away with today is knowing how to build an Edjoin profile, how to conduct a job search in Edjoin, and then also know how to apply to positions through Edjoin. So we're going to take some time today to talk about those things, and then we're actually going to walk you through Edjoin. So feel free at any point when we do that to jump into Edjoin as well and do your own search. So, Edjoin is a job site, just like Indeed is a job site, where you can actually go in there and look specifically for education jobs. So, Edjoin is a job site for education jobs, teaching related as well as non-teaching related. Through Edjoin, you can search for and apply for teaching positions and non-teaching positions. Now, I do want to make a note here, even though you could do a search for jobs for San Diego Unified School District, which is different from San Diego County Office of Education, San Diego Unified has their own website for accepting applications. So why would you be interested in Edjoin? Edjoin gives you the ability to search for jobs statewide, and I've noticed in doing searches on Edjoin that you can even look for positions outside of the state, which is kind of intriguing to me. School districts, charter schools, and even private schools are on Edjoin, and they post positions there. And again, you can apply for teaching and non-teaching positions. And it really is a one-stop shop, as I'm going to show you. Once you have your profile in Edjoin, that's like the foundation of your job application, and so it makes it a lot easier to apply for positions moving forward, having that profile. Ah, sorry, I'm having a few little minor technical issues here. I'm just going to have to go here. There we go. And of course, you can save your job search. So once you have a profile, you have an account, you can actually do a job search and save that job search and then go in and add to it or take away from it if you wanted to. So it's a very efficient way for looking for jobs. Okay. Yikes, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, so the first step in Edjoin is you want to register. Now, Edjoin, it's edjoin.org, and you would register by just filling out some simple information about yourself, like your name, your mailing address, your email address, that kind of information. And then from there, you can have a login and you can start logging in and actually really interacting. And I do want to say you don't have to have an Edjoin profile. You don't have to register in order to do a job search, but if you want to apply for jobs or to save some of the jobs that you've seen that you might be interested in later, you definitely want to register. Now, once you register, then you do what's called building a profile. Um, so with building a profile, you're going to add your personal information again, like you did when you registered, and then you're also going to add your employment history, your references, and we'll talk more about references and what that looks like, as well as employment history and what that looks like. You're also going to include your educational background and any credentials or certifications that you may have. And then you also have an area where you can include all of your attachments. The nice thing about attachments is once you put your resume there, it's there. So all you have to do when you apply for a job is you click on the things that you want to attach, and it can include that resume rather than having to upload it every single time. So what is this personal information? Like I said, it includes a lot of the same information that you would have included when you registered for Edjoin. So your address, your phone number, your email address, all that information. And you can see here on the right side of the screen that, if I can stay on one page, that your information is the first part, and then we just go right down these links and you add all that information. So in addition to your personal information, you would include in the next step your employment history. So employment history, for instance, for me, would be one of the things that I would include is the San Diego County Office of Education, and then I would put in there when I started, when it ended, who was my supervisor, and what my job title was there, and so on. Okay, and then I would also include information about my duties and how long I worked there. Now, this may be an education-related job that you had. It may be a non-education-related job you had. You just want to make sure that you have your work history there. And something that I should pause and mention here is that, as Chris Rising would say, our executive director, when you're applying for a job, the paper gets you the interview, and then the interview gets you the job. So what you put here is really important because you want to make sure that this helps you get an interview, which means even for your profile, please make sure that there are no spelling mistakes and that the information is accurate. An employer does have the right to rescind a job offer if any of the information that you provide is inaccurate. And this is information that a potential employer will see because when you apply for a job, they're going to see this information that you submit. Okay. So you're also going to include references. Chris, you're welcome. I picked on you for everything here. I have your information here for supervision or for references, but I would put my 3 references. Now for references, which we'll talk about in a moment, these should be people who are professional references, who know you in the workplace, they know what kind of team player you are, they know your professionalism, and they can actually speak to examples of your work. You would also include your education history from high school all the way up. And you can see these are just simple fields that we would fill out. And then if you, whatever types of credentials or certifications you have, you would actually update them You would include any exam. So for anyone who attended yesterday's webinar, you know that we talked a little bit about some of the assessments. If you go into teaching or you become a substitute teacher, there are certain assessments that you would take, like CBEST, which is basic skills. So I would check off here that yes, I have taken the CBEST and I've passed it. So I'm just giving you a quick overview before we get into the details, which is now. So let's talk about your resume. For the resume, you want to keep it to one page as much as you can, which means you want to be really concise. So the resume should include the important information that's relevant to the position you're applying to. This would include education, your experience, any skills that you have that would support you in the position that you're applying to. Now, I say one page for a few reasons. The more concise your resume is, the easier it's going to be for the screener and for the interviewers to be able to read your resume and just get a snapshot of the important information that helps them see how good of an applicant you are for the position. So you want it to be easy to read. And just like I mentioned with your profile, make sure that you proofread your resume and even have other people review your resume. You know, sometimes I do this all the time actually, which is why I have an amazing team that constantly supports me, and we all support one another. When I've been looking at a document for a while, I don't see my mistakes anymore. I may have a hard time seeing what looks kind of odd or doesn't fit into a document. So not only should you proofread it, but have other people proofread your resume for you. So aside from making sure that you have the important information in your resume that's relevant to the position that you're applying to, you want to have the more important information at the top of the resume, and then make sure that with your resume you don't include your picture or your address. There's no need for folks to see your picture, and then your address is going to be part of your profile anyway, so that also allows you to save some space there. Now, as far as your cover letter goes, your cover letter or a letter of introduction should be also one page, and you want to use formal language. So, for instance, if I say something like, I am, I'm going to say I am. I'm not going to say I'm or I'm gonna, right? It would be I am going to. So you just want to use formal language on your cover letter. You want to make sure that you align your skills with the job description. Now, depending on the job that you're applying to, your resume and your cover letter may end up being a little fluid. You may change it. You may move things around because you want to make sure that the pieces that align with the job description stand out in your resume and in your cover letter. And again, make sure that you proofread and you have others proofread as well. Okay, any questions so far before I move on to references? Or does anyone on the team have anything that they would like to add? And my eyes are shifting back and forth because I have two screens. I don't normally have shifty eyes, I promise you. Okay, so with references, this is something that I notice These are the kinds of things the paper, remember I said the paper gets you the interview gets you the job. These are the things that if I'm a paper screener, I notice, and if there are a lot of people applying for a job, these are the kinds of things that may, just through the paper screening process, may stand out to me. Okay, so let me share with you what they are. You want to make sure that your references are on letterhead when they are, I should say, I'm sorry, your references, your letters of recommendations should be on letterhead. Okay. The references should be, you want to at least have someone who um, uh, has been in a supervisory role with you. So at least one of those references, one of those recommendations, you want to have someone who is a supervisor. You also want to make sure that your references and your recommendation, they have knowledge of your work, and in their knowledge of your work that they can speak to at least 2 examples of your work. Okay. Um, Joseph, that is a great question. Should the resume be based on relevance and not on the most recent job? I would say, depending on how recent the relevance is, it could or should be the most recent job, and that's a great question. Thank you. Your letters of recommendations, as well as your resume, let me take that back. Your letters of recommendation should be no more than 2 years old. I would say even a year old. Okay. As far as your resume goes, when you highlight your skills, okay, so most recent would be important, but when you highlight the skills of your most recent, and when I say most recent, typically on a resume, I'm going to put my most recent job first, the next recent, and so on. When I highlight the skills that I would have utilized or things that I would have done in my job, I'm going to make sure that those pieces align with the job description. So whatever I'm highlighting from my experience, we want it to be relevant. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're applying to a teaching position. And you don't have any teaching experience. Well, there are some skills that I would take to the classroom that I may have had in a different position. That includes things like being able to manage multiple projects at a time, being able to plan meetings maybe. Maybe I facilitated meetings. Maybe I managed multiple people. So those things are skills that would then transfer into a classroom, because in a classroom and as a teacher, number one, I have to be a team player because I may be working across departments as well as with other teachers within my department. I have to be able to plan because I have to plan lessons. I have to be able to manage multiple people. I have to be able to facilitate something, right? Facilitate my classroom. So those are skills that are relevant. Okay. I hope that answered the question, Joseph. Maybe a very long answer to a shorter question. And then they speak to the qualities that are highlighted in the position. So if you are, if a job description, and we'll look over a job description in a minute, say a job description does talk about we need a team player, okay, then your letter of recommendation is going to highlight the fact that you're a team player and maybe give an example. So once you build your profile and you add your different documents like your resume, your letters of recommendations, and so on, then you can really begin your search. Now in Edjoin, there are different ways that you could do a job search. You could search by state, you could search by county, you can even search by school district, and we're going to go into Edjoin and actually show you exactly how that's done. Now, you can also do what's called an advanced search where you really narrow things down. So I'm going to select California, but then I'm going to pick a few counties that I'm interested in working in. So for instance, I live in North San Diego County. So I may decide I'm going to look for jobs in Riverside County because that's nearby, as well as Orange County and San Diego County. So I'm going to look for jobs in 3 different counties. And then there are different job types. So I want to take a moment to give you a couple of definitions here that are important when you're doing a job search. In the education world, we have what's called certificated positions and we have classified positions. Certificated positions are going to be teaching and educational administration types of jobs. So when I say administration, I mean assistant principal, principal, dean, um, director, but you could have a certificated director, classified director, so you want to look for those. Classified would be your non-teaching positions. So I may be applying for something in food service. That would be a classified position. If I'm applying for a job in the business department, that would be a classified position. And you'll see when you get into the job search feature and you play around with it, you'll see the difference between the two. So now let's really dig in and look at Edjoin and see what in the world is Shive talking about with all this stuff. We're going to take a look at Edjoin and we're going to look at some different scenarios. So when I go to edjoin.org, it brings me to the home part of Edjoin, and usually you'll see there, well, looky here. We have a virtual job fair coming up that's sponsored by the San Diego County Office of Education. That was not on purpose, but there it is. But you also usually have the most recent positions that they'll post, but these are not all of the most recent positions. It's just some of the most recent positions that have posted. It could be things that have posted in the last hour, but not the most recent, meaning in the last day. So if I did an Edjoin search 2 days ago, I'm not going to come in and just rely on what's on the screen here. Okay, what I really want to do is a search. Now you'll notice that there's a place to log in and register, which I'm not going to do that at the moment, but I could if I wanted to log in, or I can register if I haven't registered yet. What I really want to show you is this job search feature and how do I really do a job search. So coming back to this presentation, let's look at a scenario. I want to find a teaching position in career technical education, and if you were in last night's webinar, you'll know that you don't have to have a bachelor's degree necessarily to teach career technical education. You have to have industry experience. But I'm going to look for a career technical education position in San Diego County, but you know what? I'm willing to move to another county. I'm not really tied down to San Diego County, so I think I'm going to look across the entire state for these positions. So I go to Edjoin and I'm going to do a search. There are a few ways you could do a search. You can come up here and do a search, or and this search isn't going to yield as many results, or I can do a search through advanced search or region search. just for entertainment, let's look up career technical education and see what comes up. Now this is going to bring up everything across the country, not just California. So when I do this, it brings up actually right now 43 vacancies. And I can see career technical education, fire safety. There are all these positions here. Let me make my screen a little bigger so you can see that. And then it tells me where, so the location and as well as the salary. So for instance, this one, career and technical education, it's the application, it's open until filled, there's no deadline. This is in Arizona and this is the salary. And then we have here in California, Moreno Valley, which is Riverside County, another one that's open. Now this tells me what the position actually is: multimedia, digital graphics, animation, social media teacher, and this is the salary range. So if you remember, if you were in yesterday's presentation, the multimedia, digital graphics, animation, social media teacher, this is career technical ed. So this is about, do I have industry experience in multimedia? If I do, then I can actually apply for this job. I don't have to have a teaching credential. If I get the job, then I can go ahead and apply for a career technical education credential. And by the way, last night's presentation on pathways to teaching was recorded, and we'll be sharing that recording. So a job like this would make more sense on how you can actually qualify for it if you don't already have a teaching credential. So again, this lists everything, but I want to go back to the scenario. The scenario says career technical education in San Diego County, but I'm willing to move to another county if it's full-time. So career tech ed is also known as CTE, and in some places it's known as ROP. So I'm going to come over back to Edjoin, and I am actually going to come all the way back up. I'm going to go to the menu and do another job search, but this time I'm going to do an advanced search. And when I do an advanced search, I'm not going to put anything in keywords because I don't want to limit what comes up. I'd rather do some of that screening myself. Now, a teaching position or a career technical ed teaching position would be certificated. Remember I mentioned that you have certificated and you have classified. You'll notice in other positions that there is certificated, but there's also classified. But I know I'm looking for a teaching position, which is a certificated position. So when I come here, now some of these things, it is definitely education language. So if you're having a hard time with your search, feel free to, you can Google it, or feel free to email me and I'm happy to help you out with your search. But you can come over here and I would possibly look up education, because sometimes career tech ed jobs cross with adult education. Now I have to hit on my keyboard the command key and click on the mouse if I'm going to select more than one position. So I'm also going to look up other, just in case someone's calling career technical education something else. And remember I said ROP is one of the other terms. So there we go, ROP. Now for my state search, I'm just going to look in California. And then these are all the different regions or counties. I'm willing to move, so I'm just going to do a search and see what comes up. So here we have it. This first one is an 8th grade teacher. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in career technical ed, but here's a CTE position, public services, fire safety, firefighting. So say you have a background in firefighting, maybe you are a firefighter. You would qualify to teach this course. So I'm going to click on the course and then it'll give me a description. It'll tell me what district. It'll give me an ad, because who doesn't love advertisements? Here we go. There's a summary of the position. Here are the requirements and qualifications. And then it tells you possession of a designated subject's career technical education. Should say credential. But the truth is you can apply for CTE positions and not have a credential, so don't be discouraged by this. Okay. Letters of recommendations, resumes, so on. Well, if I'm already logged in and I come here to apply, then I would just go ahead and apply. I'm going to have to log into my account. Okay. And all my personal information is in there. So, but then you would just apply. I would have an opportunity to go through all my personal information, make sure it's accurate, and I can select the attachments, the letters of recommendations, resumes, and then I can go ahead and apply to this job. So if you have your computer up and you want to try one of these searches, you can. And I'm just going to take you through these. I have a bachelor's degree. I double majored in math and English. By the way, this is true. This is my own background. And I'm willing to take on any teaching position that I might qualify for in Southern California or Tulare County. So I double majored in math and English. I think what I'm going to do, I went to last night's webinar and I heard that actually math positions are hard to fill and some districts are willing to hire interns. And to be an intern, I don't have to already have a teaching credential. My bachelor's degree in math is actually the first step to being an intern. So I think I'm going to look up math positions. I don't think I'll qualify for English, but I'm going to go ahead and look this up anyway. I'll look up math and English in Southern California in Tulare County. So I come back here and I do a job search that's going to be advanced. And I'm going to look up teaching. I know I really like high school students the most. They're more relatable for me, so I'm going to look for high school teaching positions in California, and I'm going to narrow it down to Southern California as well as Tulare County. So that would include Southern California. Let's go from LA on down. Orange, Riverside. Oh, I'll try San Bernardino. Why not? In San Diego, and then come all the way down to Tulare County because the sequoias are up there. Who doesn't love the sequoias? And I do a search. And all these positions pop up. And now I can start looking for math and English. So look, here is a, let me see if I can pick one. Well, let's go ahead and pick this. No, I'm going to keep going. I want to find the math position. Here we go. Orange County Unified School District offers a math position, and when I click on this position and I actually look at the job description and requirements, qualifications, what I see is that they want a copy of my credential. Well, I don't have a credential. Does this mean that they won't take interns? The only way you'll know is if you contact the district and ask them. So my next step would be to go ahead and figure out who the contact is. It's usually in the posting. It's Jill Katibas. So I would either call Jill or I would click on this and it would link me to email. I could email her as well and say, hey, I noticed this position. This is my background. Are you willing to hire an intern? Okay, and see what they say. Now, what's really important here is to also pay attention to the application deadline. There's no flexibility. Once the application deadline hits, it's hit, and the districts are contractually and legally bound to closing the position when they say they close the position, and they're not allowed to accept any more applications at that point. Okay. So that is how I would do my search. Now, let's be honest here. It's important to me that if I'm applying to a district that I know how much it pays and whether or not there are health benefits and all of those things. So sometimes you'll get that information in the job description, but other times you will not. So what I'm going to do is click on the name of the district, and it usually, nope, not always, it doesn't here. Well, it takes me here, and it gives me their About Us, and it's that same information, but it's Orange Unified School District. So I am actually going to look up Orange Unified School District. And when I find their website, I am going to go to their human resources page, and I'm going to see how much do they pay their teachers. Do they have health benefits? All that information is there. Now, for some reason, you are unable to find that, nobody will hold it against you if you contact the district. You can call them or again email the contact person, her name was Jill, and ask her about health benefits, ask her about the salary schedule. But if I come to departments, I would be able to find human resources. And in the education world, when we're talking about pay, it's called a salary schedule. So if you were doing a search because you couldn't actually find it and you had to type in the search, you would look for salary schedule in most cases. Now, when I come to human resources, I'm not seeing salary schedule here, so I might go ahead and give Jill a call and ask her if she can help me navigate that. But I also might come up to any of these and just kind of putz around and see what I can find. So maybe I'll find something under employment opportunities, which it looks like I'm just going to find job openings here. Or I may go to certificated information, because certificated would be teaching. So I can go to certificated information and see if I could find the salary schedule that way. And salary schedules are pretty set. It's based on your years of experience. Oh, here we go, salary schedules. Your years of experience and your education. So a teacher salary schedule is right here. I can pull that up and find information about the salary. And this is great because this will satisfy some curiosity about what salary schedules look like. So we can see here, let's say, and I don't know if this is true, I would have to do my research, but let's say I have military experience. I was in the military for 4 years. Orange Unified happens to count military experience towards teaching experience. They may not, but they may. So if they did, they accepted 4 years, then that means they would put me on what's called step 5 or year 5. And then These columns right here, which is 61,000, 65,000, 75 or 70,000 and so on, that's all based on my education. So if I have a bachelor's degree plus 30 units at 5 years, this is where I'd be and so on. If they don't give you years of experience, and I think most districts don't, but I just wanted to give you an example, then there's a possibility I would start at either 47,000 or 53,000. The 30 units, Shah's question was, what does that mean, plus 30 units? These would be the number of units you have from a university. So typically someone who has a teaching credential already, like a single subject, which would be to teach high school math credential, let's say. They usually come in at a BA plus 45 units or a master's degree. So they would automatically start in column 2. Yes, thank you, Adina, for clarifying the number of units after you've already obtained your bachelor's degree is what that means. Okay. So the last scenario is, you know what? I am not sure if I want to go into teaching. I think I want to find a non-teaching position. I heard in last night's webinar that that there are non-teaching positions in school districts. I worked in the finance industry. I think I want to look for a teaching position that has more to do with finance and business and so on, someplace in Southern California. So I'm going to come back to Edjoin and I'm going to do a search for a classified position because it's a non-teaching position, and I'm going to come over here to scroll down to classified and financial accounting. There we go. And I'm looking for Southern California. Really, I think I'm just going to stick with San Diego and Riverside County for now. So let's pick San Diego County, and again I have to hit the command button before I click on Riverside. Here we go. So there are 11 jobs currently, 11 vacancies, and this is the district and the county, and then these are the positions here. And then here's some of the salary information, the salary range. Okay. So business services specialist. So same thing, you can click on any of these. Let's click on this one right here. Now this says in-house vacancy, internal candidates only. That means you have to already be employed in the district, so that one's not going to work for me. I'm going to go back to the search results page and I'm going to look for a different position. Let's do this. And look, there are also colleges here too, College of the Desert in Palm Desert. I'm going to do this Riverside County Office of Ed Senior Accounting Clerk. Let's see what that pulls up. So this one, unlike the other job description or the job summary, actually has the description where you can click on it and it's going to give you a whole description of what the job looks like. Let me see if I can put it in this window for you to see. Here we go. Okay, so there's a whole description, what the functions are, skills, ability. Okay, so now that I have this information, I'm going to take some of the skills and abilities that are highlighted here. I'm going to go back and look at my resume now and see what I highlighted in my resume and in my cover letter and make sure that I'm using some of the same language so that as the screeners are reviewing my application, they can see that I do have these skills. And then this also gives you some requirements and qualifications. So those are the 3 scenarios that I have. I know my team has been doing a phenomenal job answering questions, but does anyone have any questions for me? And feel free to type in the chat. We have everyone muted because we have so many people that with the talking there's a lot of echoing. Any questions here? And as we're waiting for questions, what I do want to say is that hiring has been a little delayed this year, but it doesn't mean that districts are not hiring. As I mentioned last night, students still need to be taught. Districts still need teachers because it just won't run itself, right? Still have to have teachers. So whether it's in a remote environment or in classroom environment, in an environment that we don't know what it's going to look like right now, you still have to have teachers teaching students. So there will be positions, and as far as the classified positions go, like that finance or food service, that's also been delayed, but it doesn't mean that districts don't need those positions. You still have finances, for instance, that continue on. There are still expenses. There are still people receiving benefits and being paid, and somebody has to process those. Whether school is in or out, that kind of work still needs to be done. Food service, students who are on free and reduced lunch, they still have to get their meals. Sometimes the school is the one place that provides them that one meal for the day. So districts still are providing meals for students. So I know right now hearing what we hear about the economy can be kind of scary and a little discouraging, but I really do want to emphasize that schools and districts and charter schools, they're not going anywhere, and they still have to run. Now, normally you'd see more positions posting in March and April. It's just been slightly delayed, and I think you're going to see more positions posting in August, like the latter part of August through September. So keep checking Edjoin. I would encourage you to build that profile. You're not obligated when you build a profile, but at least you can get going with that. And then also we do have a job fair coming up. It's a virtual job fair on June 2nd. Districts have very clearly told us, hey, make sure that when you advertise it, you're not advertising just for teaching or just for specific positions, because we are hiring a whole range of folks. So that's June 2nd. We have 30 districts and charter schools that are going to be participating, and we'll have another job fair down the line toward the end of the summer as well. Tomorrow we have a webinar on preparing for a job fair, a job interview, and beyond. It will be more geared towards teaching positions, but we will also answer questions around non-teaching positions if that's the route that you decide you want to go to. So feel free to join us tomorrow. We're going to have sample interview questions and some sample responses as well. So we thank you very much for your time. Here is our contact information again. Please follow us on Twitter. We do post webinar information there as well as different opportunities for grants and just different things. So please follow us on Twitter and we will stick around. If you have any questions, I'm going to just go ahead and stop the recording.